I wear it with pride, man. I have no shame being the Animal Crossing org. But yeah, back in 2020, I decided to make a website that help you trade Animal Crossing items. So, basically eBay for Animal Crossing.
Interesting.
And the site blew up. I don't know if I'm allowed to say this. I don't know. Who cares? We're not in it. But I'm just saying. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But they did have a meeting with us, and I think I can say that. At least I can't say what was in the meeting.
Of course.
Um,
Folks, welcome back here from the break. This time we do have another person on with us. First, it is going to be the CEO of Akrew. It is Daniel. Daniel, first off, thank you so much. Sorry for fucking up your name and having a blank before I went to break. But I appreciate you taking the time here out of all of the meetings that you got today to talk with us about this whole Riot Partnership Program. So first off, hello, introduce yourself. What's it like to be a CEO of an org?
well, what's going on, everybody? My name's Daniel. Like Vansili said, I am the CEO of Akrew. It's been really interesting being the CEO of an org. Akrew has only been around since last October 2021, so it hasn't even been a full year since we've been operating. I think it's been one of the most interesting experiences I've had personally running an org, and I really cool to come into the scene and kind of learn everything after being a fan for so long.
That's awesome, and I want to start this off, man, with what's it like, because so far every time we've had coaches, GMs, or whatnot, it's always like an org with like some sort of VC, so they're okay of operating under like losses and stuff like that too. But I think the opportunity that I have speaking with you today, or that we have speaking with today, is figuring out like starting from the ground up. So first off, why do you want it to start? Why did you want to start an org with Akrew, and how do you start an org with a team like Akrew?
Yeah, so I can the way to kind of really start that story off is how I got into gaming in general.
Yeah,
So
man.
back in 2020, and it's funny because I'm sure a lot of people here have seen us like get called the Animal Crossing org, and things like that. And it's true. I mean, it is true. I wear it with pride, man. I have no shame being the Animal Crossing org.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, back in 2020, I decided to make a website that help you trade Animal Crossing items. So, basically eBay for Animal Crossing.
Interesting.
And the site blew up. I posted it on TikTok, and I got like 200,000 viewers within the first few hours. We went from something like 60 to 3 million users within the first month.
Holy shit.
Yeah, and then that carried on to just increase even more and more and more as the year went on, and updates came out for Animal Crossing. At one point, we were running like something like, I don't know, 20 million users a month or something.
Hmm. Hmm.
But yeah, so that kind of is what pushed me to go full time into gaming. Before this, I worked at a bank, not very interesting. But then yeah, so then we expanded that platform. We support over 35 games today on a new platform called Tradery. It's kind of our bread and butter.
Hmm.
But in 2021, towards the end, I was kind of thinking, it's great to be a third-party website platform. A lot of people do it. A lot of teams out there even have their own third-party platforms. But it's really hard to brand yourself. You're really at the beck and call of the games and their brands themselves.
Hmm.
So I wanted something a little bit more that was our own, and esports was one of those options. And it's just funny that kind of around that time, one of the top users on our website, who is our GM now, decided to hit me up and joke like, "Hey, you should start an esports team. I think it'd be really cool." And I was like, "All right, well, yeah, sure. Like, let's try it out. Like, let's see, what's the worst that can happen,
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it's
yeah.
really funny because with all the success with the crew, we definitely were not expecting that. I'm not gonna sit here and be like, "Oh, we've been around for
Of
less than a year
course.
and we're these prodigies in esports." No, like, it all kind of lined up. A lot of things lined up for
Hmm.
it to happen. And like I said, really, really grateful for the experience. I thought it was really awesome.
That's awesome. So now that I think about it too, because when I think about trying to start an org, you kind of need some like good amount of cash flow to start into it. And if people have been hearing about Akrew for the first time in 2021 in like those the VCT open qualifiers to try to make it to the main stage, yeah, it was still orgs that still had some sort of VC. So you guys, in terms of what you have as a platform of being the Animal Crossing platform, that was your main funding to support the team, or did you guys go outside of like your regular cash flow to try to find more investment in order to support a team?
No, yeah, it's all from the main platform.
Okay.
So we're 100% bootstrapped as a company in general.
Hmm.
It's my first startup, and for me, I've heard a
Nice.
lot of horror stories when it comes to VC,
Yeah.
especially from just friends in the space. So I wanted to bootstrap because we could. We obviously had we had the opportunity to do it, and because we're cash flow positive very early on. And a lot of people, I guess, don't know this, and I speak about it very openly, but I guess it's just not very well advertised. But I would say esports is only about like 20% of my time, maybe
Okay.
less. Yeah, I spend 80 to 85% of my time working on the website, making sure that the money making machine is there so that we can do esports, right? So, yeah, we still, and you mentioned, operating at a loss. We definitely still operate at a loss, but
Yeah.
for me, I really see the esports side of our business being kind of our marketing arm, right? It's just part
Hmm.
of the
Hmm.
marketing budget.
Of course.
So we're not afraid to take loss there. And I think that's one of the unique things about artwork in general is because like you said, you don't see a lot of orgs out there that have this kind of approach or kind of have quote unquote this luxury of
Hmm.
being able to operate, without worrying about profits because that way we can really truly focus on our competitive aspect, right? Like winning,
Yeah.
practicing, and kind of the other aspects don't, not to say they don't matter as much, but we have to worry about them less.
Of course. And the interesting part, actually, I never heard about this. Where in terms of like the downsides of VCs and stuff like that, I don't know if you're able to share some of like the horror stories that you heard about venture capitalism in terms of like investments into an org. What exactly are they looking for, and how does that add that extra stress into you guys running or wanting to run an org if you did have that VC funding?
For sure, and I'm more speaking from the side of just tech in general and
Okay.
not esports or, but I'm sure it applies. It's the same
Hmm.
thing, right?
Hmm.
I would say from a tech perspective, of course, you're taking somebody else's money, so you have
Hmm.
to take into their account their
They want
opinion,
profits.
their decision making. If they want you to do something, you kind of have to do it. I mean,
Okay.
there's a lot of people with the opinion out there that you take their money, you don't have to do it, but there's that pressure, right? I mean, of course, you're taking a huge sum of money from somebody,
Hmm.
you kind of owe them something, right? And of course, on top of just owing them things that you're doing,
Hmm.
you owe them the money, right? So
Hmm.
VCs are always looking to make their money back. They're always looking to make 10x, 20x the investment they made. So
Hmm.
everything that you do has to be kind of revenue driven. And I would say, not to name any names, but a lot of orgs out there, they have to turn to other kind of methods to get this money.
Hmm.
Really promoting streamers more, having a team that is more about ad revenue or having
Hmm.
ad placements, right? Those kind of aspects of it, and of course the streaming aspect is one that's debated in a lot, right? Is like
Hmm.
a lot of the teams out here are quote unquote streamer teams, whatever the joke is, right? And I think that is a result of VC because you need to get your money back, you need to make your money somewhere, and that's where the money's at right now. Streamers,
Hmm.
esports is not making money in any sense. I don't think any team out there is making money. We're just not at that point yet. I'm not
Yeah.
saying that it won't ever be that way, but yeah, we're really not at that point yet.
That's interesting because as you mentioned that, I even had people telling me like even the top like
Oh yeah.
the ones that are always talked about
Mm.
currently in on social media. Also, those teams and orgs potentially are not even running at profit currently and are
Oh
still
no,
running in
none
the
of
red.
none of that. Riot is not running profitable. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, yeah,
the base, and I'd say like Riot is doing it the best. I mean they're putting the most effort, they're putting the most thing, and that's honestly why we went into Valorant first.
yeah.
Because I respect Riot so much. Like Riot is one of my favorite companies, like how they operate and the passion that they put into their projects. And so I think that the esports scene that they've been able to create with League is unrivaled. I mean, obviously people from other games want to really kind of talk about, oh, Dota has a bigger pot, or we they were on ESPN and stuff like
Hmm.
that. But in
Hmm.
reality, right, like, does anybody have a culture like League of Legends does? So like I said, I really, really, really respect Riot and what they've done, and I think they're even though they're operating at a loss, and even though the top teams are operating at a loss, it's what it takes to get esports to where it needs to be.
Hmm.
So, and I guess I kind of want to ask about that relationship or that kind of involvement. You've answered the obvious. It's Riot freaking games. Why wouldn't we get involved with Valorant? But how was that route to come from the background that you come from, not necessarily being an esports thing, to now have to start reaching out to some of these teams and talk to players specifically? Like, did you have somebody kind of just on your squad that did that for you guys? What was that process like to reach out and eventually sign the Easy Five and the steps to actually saying, hey, Akrew is in Valorant now?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of Easy Five, so like I said, I got really lucky. The top user on our website, who, like I said, is our GM now, she used to
Hmm.
be a manager for Complexity. So she kind of knew the whole process of looking at free agent teams, assessing them, and then I added my little spice of I wanted to interview every single player before we signed
Nice.
them.
Mm.
So that's one of the things that I still do, even with anybody that we sign nowadays, is I interview every single person to kind of just get a vibe check of whether they're going to fit with the Akrew, culture or not. And I think that's something that is really unique with us. And you can ask any of our players, I think, or even anybody who's left our team, that
Mhm.
we really treated every single person out here like family. It sounds really cliche.
Yeah,
Sometimes
yeah,
people tell you to run from that, but I put my best foot forward to make sure that everybody on our team is, every single decision we make, it's the best decision for them, right?
yeah. Mhm,
Mm.
mhm,
And so but picking up Easy Five, that really was what it was. Like our GM, she kind of knew the steps. We were scouting free agent teams. She reached out to a ton of them. Actually, Easy Five was one of our top choices, but it wasn't our
mhm,
only choice. We talked to a few different teams. We signed Easy Five. Later on, we signed a few other people along with the coach, and that's kind of how the team started. I mean, it is really simple as that, which was surprising to me as well because I felt like for me, esports and entertainment was kind of this far field. Like I had no idea, what how complex it was. But then I
mhm.
got into it and I was like, oh, well, there's a couple guys in the Midwest that just like get together and make a team, and that's an esports team, right? So
Yep.
it's pretty nuts.
Yeah,
Um, and yeah, so in terms of that, and then in terms of dealing with Riot, we really didn't really have a contact at Riot till later on, like kind of closer towards partnership application.
yeah. Mhm.
Mm.
So that was something I think it's just tough. I mean, Valorant is growing so fast. Like, do they have enough staff to really just like manage talk to every single tier two team? I
Yeah.
think one of the things out there is that you really just have to put your foot forward and like reach out, right? Like, no one's gonna reach out to you. Why
Mhm,
would they? So taking the initiative to even talk to them to get the application process, or even just be involved with the scene, is something initiative that you have to take.
mhm.
And again, I got really lucky. Same here with the whole Animal Crossing site. I actually met somebody at Riot through that. So
Nice.
Jesus.
yeah, I don't know if you guys know him, Gene. I'll give a shout out to Gene. Love
Yeah,
Gene.
yeah, yeah,
He
yeah. Gene
yeah
Chobra.
yeah, Torba. Yep, yep,
Yeah.
yep. He has been an awesome friend throughout this whole process. He met me through the original site Nookzon because his wife used it a lot, and he'll tell you the story every time I'm there and he's there. But basically, his wife was using the website like crazy. She was like, "Hey, like you should definitely do something with them." And he was, Riot Partnerships lead at the time, and so
Mhm.
he met up with me. We chatted and just stayed in contact, and that's kind of how I was able to poke him for poke him for Riot contacts.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's how we got a little bit more information in
Nice.
terms of partnership and stuff like that.
Give me that information, or if you're allowed to. Well,
Yeah.
let's get right into it, Daniel.
Yeah,
What are some of the
speaking
information that you're
of-
actually about to are able to share about this partnership program? Because again, I was trying to squeeze it out of Garrett just earlier on today. He couldn't say shit, but
Yeah, I can't say shit, man. Honestly, that's the thing. I can't say shit either. I signed an
yeah,
NDA, just like everybody else.
that's totally
Um,
respectable.
Mm.
Yeah, I think the main things that I could talk about kind of things surrounding the partnership, and I know
Yeah, yeah,
that's something that
definitely.
you're definitely interested in. In terms of partnership itself, obviously we announced that we got denied. I think that
Mhm,
they were okay with us talking about that. They were totally cool with us talking about applying. They encouraged us even to talk to our fan bases about applying. And they also encouraged us to, just inform everybody about the process
mhm,
in terms of
mhm.
like kind of the surface level stuff.
Yeah,
Um, but in terms of my thoughts on the partnership, I think partnership. Unfortunately, even though we had to leave, I think
yeah,
that obviously sucked, right?
yeah,
But
yeah,
I think that in general, partnership is kind of the way that everything should go. And I think one of the things that the internet and a lot of casters, players, and stuff take a look at it is a lot really from a consumer standpoint.
yeah.
But when I look at it, I do see it from a business standpoint, and it makes the most sense for you to go to a partnership model. Yes, the tier two scene is the only people that basically suffer on the tier two scene, which
Yeah.
again,
Mhm.
like I said, unfortunate for us, but everybody else profits. I mean, if you really look at it, obviously Riot's going to profit.
Mhm,
Having a dedicated slot of teams is really going to bring up the attractiveness for sponsorships because
mhm.
when you look at some of these big companies like Walmart, the huge companies that are sponsoring football games and other traditional sports, the deals that they're signing are like 5-10 year deals. They're not
Yeah,
signing 6-month deals, especially
yeah.
for us. Like we've been around for less than a year, right? So that was one of the things that Akrew actually ran into as one of our biggest challenges was getting sponsors because we were so young.
Yeah.
I talk to somebody at Walmart, they'd be like, "Oh yeah, talk to me my next sponsorship cycle next year February." You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so these term deals, it doesn't really lead towards teams that are going to be in and out of the league. So having a dedicated league, having some people locked in for a certain amount of years is just going to attract way more sponsorship and going to raise the actual monetary value of Valorant as a whole.
Yeah.
On top of that, fans, having dedicated teams within the scene, it's going to be it has less people to root for, and you're going to be able to attract way more people with concentrated value, right? I mean, people are just going to know who to lock onto, who they want to root for. Just like I was really everything in the NFL. NFL is the best monetized sport, traditional sport out there. And I mean, obviously you have people rooting for their teams because the teams have been there for 50 years. You know what I mean? And then on top of that, it actually is going to be better for players too. I mean, having dedicated teams in there that don't have to worry about funding and things like that, they're gonna be able to pick out talent a lot better. The path to pro is going to get a lot better. Being able to I don't know if I can talk about that, but anyway, but it'll be better. There's some stuff that Riot has planned, and I can't talk about that. But I think path to pro will be much better. So like I said, when you look at it from a business standpoint, you look at everything. It's unfortunate that T2 is the only one that has to suffer as of now, at least until their plans come out for it. But everybody else is the whole scene, everything, the fandom is going to profit from having partnership.
There's just so many things that I want to ask after that paragraph you just mentioned.
Yeah.
I think the first one is in terms of the fan base, because you mentioned how
Hold on, Vance, can I jump in? Because mine might be a yes or no. Mine. So this, and again, if none is the answer, not applicable is the answer. But we kind of asked the same thing to Garrett, where we said, "Hey, what was the criteria?" And he said, we didn't really know the criteria. This is what we thought we needed to do to get accepted. Do you have like a general idea, or is there criteria that you thought going into it to say, hey, this is what Akrew needs to meet to be accepted?
Yeah, 100%. Funny you said that. Probably just, swerving you guys. The criteria is like very clearly detailed in the packet. Like, so they gave us a packet. I'm sure I could say that. To tell us exactly what we needed to put in our application to get in. Also, I don't know if Knights was there, but they also, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this. I don't know. Who cares? We're not in it. But I'm just saying. I'm just kidding. But they did have a meeting with us, and I think I can say that. At least I can't say what was in the meeting.
Of course.
But again, they answered a lot of questions about the packet and what was going on. So I think that I mean. I had a really good idea of what it would take for us to get into partnership. I knew for a fact that we had a good shot. I think we did. But unfortunately, outcome is the outcome, right? I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I think that's pretty much all I can say.
No, I get it. Totally respectable. And I think at the same time, my question is very similar to that too, because I was going to say, like, if you knew you had like a good opportunity to actually make it into the next phase, to make it to the partnership program, then my question was, did you wish you were into esports maybe like 10 years ago? Because if you're looking at how many teams are available to join this potential partnership program in North America, would be, let's say, 8 teams, 10 teams out of 50 signed teams that currently exist, or something like that in the tier 2 scene. Now less, of course, but if you were at that level of that marketing that could reach out to so many consumers in the end, such as an EG or a TSM or a Sentinels or something like that, do you think you have a better chance, or did the partnership program still give a good chance for up-and-coming organizations to have a chance to get into the partnership program?
No, I think it did. I mean, I think it's 2 separate questions. I think it definitely did. Lean into it, and like I said, we made it. Like, we made it at least into the application process, right? At least they allowed us to apply, right? I don't think they allowed everyone to apply, but it was like at least we got into the application process. So I think Riot was very open-minded about that. Like, I think they were considering adding some, newer teams to the scene, or like, just considering it, right? I mean, obviously the number of slots pretty small. So I think that was definitely to our disadvantage. But I mean, Akrew has been sitting in the top 15 for at least NA for the last, whatever, the whole time we've been here. So
Mhm.
it's like I think they had to at least consider us, right? I think that was
Yeah.
something for sure.
You guys
I
are
think,
so
and then
close to making it into the stage 1 as well, man. Like 1-2 games
Yeah,
away,
yeah.
man.
Oh
So
man.
close.
both.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no, let's
Uh,
not remember that. But and then the other question, in terms of what was the other question? The first question you asked.
I think the first one was like if you actually made it out
Yeah,
to like 10 years ago, and then
Yeah.
the second one is like did the partnership program still allow like newer orgs
yeah.
such as yourself to have a chance into the partnership program,
No,
or was
totally.
it like lost cause already?
I think unfortunately in this scene and in the entertainment industry in general, not just esports, but
Yeah.
seniority is such a powerful thing to have. Being
Hmm.
around for 5-10 years to prove your track record is just going to be something that like sponsors are going to attach onto, right?
Yeah.
Just being able to have more chances to prove what you've done, have more, and just been around for a long time. Because I mean, esports teams, especially tier 2 teams, they pop up in and out all the time, right? I
Yeah.
mean, so sponsors are starting to get more wary of that kind of thing, and they want to invest in someone who's going to be around for a long time to promote their products, right? So
Hmm.
again, at the end of the day, it's business. And yeah, being around 10 years ago, sure. I mean, just being an incumbent would have been great. I mean, like a lot of people know about you. You are able to bring in these other partnerships. Uh, sorry, excuse me.
Take
You're
your
able
time.
to bring in these other partnerships. That you've had existing from other games.
Hmm.
And just being the first in the scene. But I mean, it's a pro and con, right? I mean, 10 years ago, man, how much harder would it have been to get in front of like an executive at Chipotle to grab a sponsorship, right? When esports is like not even a thing. Whereas, yeah, and that's what I'm saying with the whole scene overall. Even at this point, the people who are invested in the scene and putting their time to the scene, they are taking the hit for everybody else. That when it
Yeah.
actually becomes the real thing that it needs to be, right? I mean,
Hmm.
it's right now, and even then, it's not. We're not profitable. We're not.
Hmm.
It's not as big as it needs to be. And it could be totally bigger, for
Yeah.
sure.
Is that the main reason why you decide to step away after here for pulling out of the scene in general in Valorant after you guys didn't make it through into the next partnership program? Because just a little bit ago you were mentioning, hey, the plans that Riot has for Path to Pro
Mhm.
seems still very promising. Yet understanding that you still wanted to take a step away, Akrew still wanted to take a step away for now from the Valorant scene.
Yeah, I mean, I think I wanted to step away just because of all the uncertainty. I
Mm.
think, I'm sure there's a tier 2 scene coming. We've talked to people in Europe, and their tier 2 scene is great. It's fantastic.
Yep.
But for us, it's just like so unsure, like what's gonna happen.
Mm.
And sitting around, and like I said, I said, we're less susceptible to kind of uh, the pressures of making money. But
Yep.
obviously, sitting around for months at a time, paying salaries to play
Yeah.
NSGs is not ideal, right? I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
even then, as you've seen, tons of teams have pulled out, and some of these teams are the top teams: Soar,
Yeah.
Dark
Yeah.
Zero,
Mhm.
Luminosity. Like, who would you be playing against
Yeah. Yeah.
in
Yeah.
the tier
Yeah.
2 scene,
Yeah.
right? And so, I think it was a couple things. It was that. It was the
Is it
viewership
lack
for
of exposure
sure.
as well? Yeah, I was gonna say like
Yes.
viewership because you're playing open NSGs or whatever the
Yeah.
format's gonna be for tier two. Because I was mentioning it before is like even if you guys are still playing at tier two, doesn't necessarily mean that your game's gonna get broadcasted on the main stage if we're still going through an open
Yeah.
tournament. Is that like because how do
Yeah.
you make money? I guess in
Exactly.
the end, right? What are the reasons that you want to stay in it to make money as an org?
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I think that's the biggest reason for most awards, right? The viewership is just so uncertain. And then I would say the top reason for us is just like you no longer have the chance to kind of compete at the top, right? I
Yeah.
think that was something that was really interesting for me getting into the Valorant scene was like,
Hmm.
we could just be a random team as long as we have the funds, we can play at the top. You know what I mean? And I think that's something that kind of hit me hard. I think the hardest was just like,
Yeah.
hey, I wanted to win, and I always told the boys this. Our team like was like, hey, like I don't really care what you guys do as long as you guys win. We're gonna put
Mhm.
in the work. We're gonna get the coach. We're gonna get all these things. Like we're gonna get everything you need and set you guys up to win.
Hmm.
And so that's what I always told them, and that's how I felt like after getting denied from the partnership. Like it really was hard to sit there and just be like, all right, well, we can't even play at the top anymore. The best we can play for is like what 13 or whatever 14, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
um, and and yeah, and then obviously that's why we're still sticking with other esports. It's not like we're getting out of esports in total. Rocket League, we still have a really good chance right now in Rocket League to be the top. I mean, we're quickly climbing the ranks. So there's yeah, I think those are kind of the two main things with getting denied and why we decided to step back.
Awesome.
Well, so then, in a perfect world, right? Time, not a problem. Akrew has been there. What does that kind of look like? I think you've given us like really good insight just from your mind as kind of like a businessman and what it kind of takes to I guess play or like be interested at a loss. What does that look like, right? What is that perfect world of kind of getting the ground back under this running Akrew to want to get back into Valorant, to see that okay, we can make it to that path to pro, kind of like what is that perfect outlook from the business standpoint?
Yeah, and just to be clear, when I talk about Path or Pro, I mean per player, right? I don't talk about
Mhm.
org. I'm not
Right.
talking about orgs, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
yeah, and so I don't think that will really change. I think Riot will have focus on that. They're doing really, like I said, they're doing a kick-ass job. Can't talk about it, but they're doing a kick-ass job about it. And I don't fault Riot too hard. You know what I mean? I
Yeah,
think
yeah, of course.
um, there's a lot of people online that have really good insight even without knowing the insider information, which is fantastic. I know a lot of players out there are like, this is not the end of tier two.
Yeah.
People will come
Hmm.
back once it's figured out, and that's
Yeah.
exactly how I feel, right? I
Mhm.
mean, once tier two is figured out, and kind of there's a little kind of unspoken agreement between some of the larger orgs to get back in, like if that happens, yeah, I'm totally in. I mean, I think if the viewership is there and the glory is there, man, like I don't see a reason why we wouldn't get back into Valorant. I think
For sure.
it's I personally think it's the evolution of the esports, right? I think it's moving in that direction. I think so. The way I see it is League way too complicated for like the average person, man. I mean, I used to play League and I still used to get confused. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So the simpler the esport, I wouldn't say the better. I would say there's a mix and there's this balance that they are still trying to figure out. And I think Valorant is a good starting point for that because I
Yeah.
mean, it's really simple, man. I mean, other than the abilities, knowing the abilities and stuff, you can really still enjoy the game by just watching. Oh, they killed the whole other team. I know they
Yeah.
won. You know what I mean? Like it's very obvious and it's very fast paced.
Yeah.
And like I said, I think I respect Riot a lot for a lot of things they do. I watched like a documentary back in the day when they talked about League and like when they redesigned the map and how it was all 100% based around being able to watch the map. And
Mhm.
and I don't know if I can find this documentary anymore, but that was something I thought was really cool. Was like the people making the game cared a lot about the people watching the game, right?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
all the way down to the design of it. Not just like okay the production, the esports, and all that, but all the way down to the design of the game. And I'm sure with Valorant they took the exact same steps.
Hmm.
Um, and like I said, I always compare things to the NFL. The football, the NFL is the most successfully monetized sport worldwide. I mean, not worldwide in the U.S. Right, and
Mhm.
and they
Mhm.
do a killer job of doing that. And so I
Yeah.
think that Riot pulling a lot from kind of those experiences. I'm sure. I think that Valorant being such a quick paced game, round per round. Not to say that obviously it's a tactical shooter, but it is more in the right direction of an esport that people are excited to watch, and it's always
Mhm.
exciting to
Hmm.
watch Valorant. Every
Yeah.
minute of
Yeah.
Valorant is exciting.
You get to understand what's going on until there's actually a site execute with like 16 fucking ultimates. Even if there's only
Yeah,
10 players, but it doesn't matter. You guys know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about. It gets kind of like fucking crazy going on to those site hits, and that's why I always have to thank like the observers and also thank my peers that are currently
oh
doing a
man, yeah.
Yeah.
kick-ass job in the VCT circuits, such as yourself as well, Tanner. So yeah, man, it's the storylines and the action that you catch as well that also is able to help you paint that picture a little bit more and understand what's going on in the Valorant game. But Daniel, that's all we got. We want to thank you guys. We want to thank you for sure for hanging out with us and answering all these questions. I want to leave you with another question and a shout out that you can give to. Like first off, how's Animal Crossing going these days, and what's next here for yourself and for Akrew? Because I think you're still invested in Rocket League, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, like I said, we're still in Rocket League. We're
Yeah.
still pumping hard. We are like we're ranking up really fast. I think we have a really good shot at being one of the top teams in Rocket League, and we've been investing the same kind of principles that we brought to Valorant into Rocket League. So I'm really happy about that. Animal Crossing wise, Animal Crossing is kind of whatever, but like I said, we moved on to a new platform called Tradery.
Yeah.
We support almost like we support like 35 plus games now. So if you
Crazy.
ever, if you ever have a game that you're playing that has trading, you need to trade somebody, let us know. We'll be in there.
Nice.
And so yeah, definitely check us out on that stuff. Those are kind of our main products. But we definitely have something really really exciting that's going to drop beginning of next year, which is I know it's
Okay.
kind of a long time from now, but it's been almost a year in the making, and I'm super excited to drop it. I think it's really unique, and a lot of people would be very wowed by it. But that's all I
So,
can say. So
okay. Okay.
um,
So then
but
at least
that's
they
pretty much
could
it.
follow you. They could follow you at SquishGwin on Twitter.
Yeah.
But who else do they have to follow to know about this announcement next year?
Yeah, just follow Akrew HQ. We are Akrew
Okay.
HQ on everything. Twitter, Instagram. We mostly post on Twitter, but yeah, we have that. We have our Discord, Akrew Discord. We're in there. Yeah, and then those are kind of the easy things to follow. I mean, everything's linked, on the
Hell yeah.
profiles and
So we
link
gotta
in
make
bio and
sure
stuff.
that we have to keep an eye open for the partnership program in 2023 for Riot, but also for what's going on here with Akrew
Yes.
in 2023.
100%.
So,
Yes.
Daniel, again, thank you so much for your time, brother. It's been very, very nice that you've been open and candid as much as you can to be able to answer our questions. So looking forward to what's going on, what's next in store for Akrew, and hopefully have you on later on to future shows.